News 360 Headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint
and Napa Foods, Heaven Black Insecticide Spray and Coil.
National Security Minister refuses to furnish parliamentary committee probing the leaked tape on the alleged plot to remove IGP with details of investigations undertaken by his ministry.
Also tonight, Kennedy Japan retains #1 spot on ballot paper for New Patriotic Party November 4 presidential primary as contestants and election committee reach consensus on modalities.
In business tonight, the rate of price increases slows for the first time in 5 months, easing pressure on the central bank for policy rate hikes.
On the international front, more than 5,300 people killed after floods in Libyan city of Derna.
We've got details of all these stories, plus many more coming up in the next 60 minutes. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. You can join us with your views, comments, and suggestions on any of our top stories this hour. Feel free to visit any of our social media pages on Facebook and on Twitter. Now to our very first story, and the National Security Minister, Albert Kandapah, will not disclose the content of an interim report from the National Security regarding the leaked audio tape at the center of the alleged plot to oust the IGP. The minister told the committee that the document cannot be released because it remains classified. This came to light at a media briefing after an in-camera hearing of the committee in Parliament, which included the sector minister and key witness Na Bugri Nabu. There's more in the following report.
Wednesday's hearing was conducted entirely behind closed doors. The key witnesses were scheduled for re-examination due to recent developments. The National Security Minister Albert Kandapah and Chief Bugri Nabu provided answers to questions from committee members. The chairman of the committee, Samuel Atachia, told the media about the committee's inability to access an important national security document.
The first person we called upon was the Minister for National Security, Honorable Kandapah. And the reason why we called him is that Superintendent Asari had confessed that he appeared before the National Investigation Bureau. So we will not do a shoddy job by not calling the minister who has superintendents over that bureau, the NIB. So he came to say, indeed and in fact, NIB called Superintendent Asari and the rest of them in relation to the same leaked tape, and they've done a lot of work on it. It's an interim report, but he will not share it with us, because if you care to know, it's a national security document, it's not declassified.
He spoke about the IGP's absence at the meeting.
Superintendent Asari, COP Mensa, and the rest of them, even Chief Bugri Nabu, they were present. The only person who couldn't show up was the IGP, although he was penciled for today. And they agree with what the Minister for National Security said. And then he was accordingly discharged.
Atachia revealed the next plan of action for the committee.
Because of the nature of what is happening, we want to do a thorough job and end quickly. The nation cannot be chewing on this matter for too long, because it has a bearing on the security of this country. The head of internal security, if you care to know, the Inspector General of Police, is part of what we are trying to interrogate, and we should end it as quickly as possible. The case has been adjourned to the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th of October, without fail.
Duke Bento Opoku, TV3 News, Parliament House, Accra.
So we're going to stay a while longer on this developing story. Let's go live on Zoom to speak to Richard Kumado, who's a security analyst, consultant, I beg your pardon. He has years of experience working with the NIB, formerly the BNI. Thank you, sir, for your time, and good to have you on News 360. What do you make, first of all, of the decision taken by the Mr. Kandapa, who's the National Security Minister, not to disclose details of an interim report conducted by his good self or his outfit?
You see, if you work within the security intelligence sector before, you will understand the point I raised the other day when the committee decided to call the Minister for National Security. The right person they should have called was the Director BNI or the Director NIB. It was his boys who did the investigation by picking up those guys who work within the offices of Bubi Nabu. Calling the National Security Minister, you wouldn't get anything. And these are independent institutions that have different reporting lines and different investigation outcomes. I believe they serve the national security, and they wouldn't even give the national security the full report. So I'm not surprised National Security Minister showed up and said, I wouldn't give you any report, and it is not for everybody's consumption. The parameters of this committee is to authenticate the tape. And I think they must concentrate on that line and finish it up as quickly as possible. When the police, who is also a national security institution, get to National Security Council, parts of the reports that need to be shared for operational purposes will be shared for all the institutions that make up the National Security Council.
But then it would make no difference at all if the boss of the NIB was called, because the National Security Minister did not say that he did not have details of that report. He said those details were classified, and for which reason he would not disclose them to the committee. And so even if the boss of the NIB came, he possibly would have said the same thing.
Probably he would have given them just a few highlights without disclosing the actual details of the report. And I don't think Ministry of National Security, remember there's a ministry and there's a secretariat. I don't think even the secretariat or the Ministry of National Security have the full reports, because the BNI is a secret society and their operations are different, and they don't just disclose everything to one particular person in that regard. I was wondering who informed the committee that they should call the Minister for National Security. I think going forward, they should just concentrate and do their work and leave the rest for the other institutions to carry out what relates to their work.
So what possible effect could this have on the committee's work?
No, what they need to do is a simple thing. They ask them to authenticate the tape. The tape is in the domain of the public. And the day Bubi Nabu appears there and said, I did a recording. It was done in my office. Everything on the tape is true. I gave the tape to the president. I think the committee has finished their work. What they are now doing right now is to give references to people whose names have been mentioned on the tape to hear their story. Fortunately for us, Dampare, whose many of the things that were said were against him and his person and his role as an IGP, made a public hearing yesterday, and that should end their work. They should hurry up and wrap it up and let people go back to work. Whatever it is that the BNI will want to do with the report, they have done it. And the state, who has the power to remove the IGP or to keep him there, have this report in their domain for a very long time. So you don't need a parliamentary probe to come up with any report that will have any reference on what the BNI does or what the police do in this particular case.
So now we know the NIB conducted an investigation into the matter. In fact, they went ahead to invite the 3 police officers. The parliamentary select committee or the parliament is also investigating this matter. We know that the police service itself had initially instituted an interdiction against these 3 officers. Aren't we likely to have an overlap of investigations?
The committee had a little bit, and I think that is what has thrown up all these things into the public domain. Professor, if you remember, when the case broke out, the BNI as an independent body was taxed by the state because it was Dampare and the police who was involved. So they couldn't have to use the police. So the BNI did an investigation on behalf of the state, and they gave the report to the state. Dampare has also done his independent investigations, and he has the report to himself. Because it's a private investigation, he wouldn't disclose it to the state or to any other person. What the Speaker of Parliament has done is to give parliamentarians and the general public an overview of what has happened. And I think the committee should have stayed in that line, but they veered into some other areas that is throwing their work into the public domain, and people are raising issues. In my perspective, I think they have done enough. They should just close it and let the right thing be done, regardless of whoever is an IGP or the director being it.
We really do appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Richard Kumado, who is a security consultant, join us here on News 360.
In more news tonight, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu Dampare, says the service has centralized its media communication as part of its transformation agenda. The move, he noted, follows international best practices and aims to prevent half-truths from damaging the service's image.
There had been a long-standing mutual relations between the Ghana Police Service and the media. Anytime there were issues bordering crime and related matters, the media could freely seek clarification from regional public relations officers. But since Dr. George Ekufu Dampare took over as Inspector General of Police, a new directive was given, where every information must come from the national headquarters.
But the directive was criticized by media personnel who viewed it as detrimental to the free flow of information. But the IGP, in his response to the parliamentary committee probe, asserted that they were adhering to international best practices.
It is something we have discussed at POMAM, agreed upon a strategy for redefining our engagement with the public in a manner that sits well with international best practice. Everybody across the country granting interviews on matters of police from a perspective that at times not informed by the full facts. And at the end of it all, when the facts come, the organization look unpresentable.
He said the move is to provide accurate information to the public and maintain the image of the police service.
A police management with regional commanders meetings were held, and all the PROs were brought, and they deliberated on this. And we all saw that this is good for the organization. You see that in recent times, information from police across all our media space are delivered on matters as soon as we have the full facts that will inform the public to continue to deepen their trust, confidence, and respect for us. We do that irrespective of the time of the day.
It is true that a centralized system of disseminating information, particularly when there are delays, could lead to speculation and misinformation. But with the IGP insisting on maintaining this form of engagement, what could be done?
As far as the media is concerned, nobody, no institution, no public office holder is above criticism. So if the media find what the IGP and his men are doing now as inefficient, the media should raise the issue critically and dialogue with them to improve the system.
Professor Kakari says the service could be blamed if there are challenges in getting information to the public.
If the idea is to improve the situation, the question I have is when will they finish with the current assessment of the old practice, and what new system do they really want to put in place? To what extent can the media engage with the police officers who are not at headquarters? They will have to take the blame if there are more questions than answers.
Until that is addressed, the media will continue to rely on centralized information. Evelyn Tinkma, TV3 News, Accra.
If you just tuned in, a reminder you're watching News 360. Our major news bulletin for the day was streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. Let's do some politics now. And the New Patriotic Party presidential aspirant Kennedy Ejapon has picked #1 after balloting for the party's November 4 presidential primaries. The Sin Central MP also picked #1 during the Super Delegates Conference on August 26, while Vice President Dr. Mamadou Bawumia picked the second slot, while former Agriculture Minister Dr. Owusu Afriyie picked the third slot. Now, a former Member of Parliament for Mampong, Francis Adainimo, picked the fourth slot. The NPP is expected to hold its National Delegates Conference on November 4 to elect a flag bearer for the 2024 general elections.
Meanwhile, the party's Presidential Elections Committee Chairman, Reverend Professor Aaron Michael Quaye, says they have resolved a number of issues and requests made by the aspirants themselves.
We have resolved a number of issues and requests made by the aspirants themselves. We are generally agreed that there will be nothing like camping of persons, so that people will come freely and vote freely on this occasion. And we are going to meet the police together with the EC officials, so that everybody sings from the same hymn book on that day. No officials, regional party people, etc., can have any influence on that day. You go to your own constituency and vote, and then you are done. You will not have accreditation to enter any other area, so that there will be no allegations of some people being at certain places and influencing voters and so on and so forth. So that at the end of the day, it's clear and clean. We know there had been a lot of problems about proxies. People sometimes come and no one really can tell until the last minute. It's going to be resolved within a whole month before the election. In fact, we are streamlining and tightening the rules in such a way that at the end of the day, the NPP will win, not any particular person. Honorable Kennedy Agyapong takes number 1. The Vice President takes number 2. Honorable Dr. Akuto takes number 3. And Honorable Adainimo takes number 4. That is the final placement by way of the ballots, and this is how it's going to be.
And after the balloting, Kennedy Agyapong charged delegates not to be swayed by money and intimidation.
Well, it's clear indication that I'm what God has chosen to lead MPP. If you believe in the Bible, you know, everywhere you go, Kennedy Agyapong is number 1. It's a clear indication that I should be given a chance to lead this country. So I'm pleading with delegates that the signs are clearly on the wall, that if you vote for Kennedy Agyapong, you definitely lead this country and break the 8. My expectation is to win, because I'm a grassroots man. I have been fighting for the ordinary people ever since. So I know for sure, no matter the amount of money they're going to pay and the intimidation, they'll use their conscience and vote for their man, because they don't think of today, but they think of tomorrow. So I have confidence in the delegates that no matter the amount they give them, they have the brains to choose the best candidate, a man who actually understands the plight of the polling station executives or the ordinary people in this country. So I have confidence that come November 4th, with all the intimidation and whatever, the delegates are going to speak. It's up to all of us, the contestants and their supporters, to abide by what has been put in place by the Elections Committee. So I'm satisfied with it. But individuals as we are, you know, some may choose not to go by the rules and take the law into their own hands. That is the challenge we have now. But I'm advising all those who want to take the law into their own hands is that we need unity in the party.
Away from the NPP, the Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana, JUSAG, is requesting adequate security and risk allowance for its members following recent attacks at the Tamale District Courts. The association has said that its members have a crucial role to play in nurturing and protecting the justice system.
On August 28, community members stormed the Tamale District Court over an alleged drug peddler shielding, causing gunshots and injuries to at least 3 people. President of the Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana, Samuel Apoteotu, at the 2023 Judicial Service Staff Deba and Open Forum in Cape Coast, noted that the Tamale incident is a wake-up call for members.
As we do this and more, let us enhance security in our courts to protect and safeguard staff, judges, and magistrates in our clients. The recent incident of attack at the Tamale District Court is a wake-up call on the service to relook at our security protocols. It also sends a signal that all employees of the service are at risk. And with this inherent risk, provision of risk allowance should not be seen as too much for staff.
The Chief Justice, Getri Tokonu, urged staff, particularly court bailiffs, to refrain from demanding money from those they serve in court processes.
I want you to go away with this, that the Chief Justice said, I am a servant. She herself, she's a servant. And all of us, we are servants. We are here to serve the people of Ghana. I don't want you to ever forget that. So bailiffs, you cannot be demanding money from people before you set off to serve their processes, because that was not the condition of service that you were given. If you don't like the job because we won't allow you to be demanding money, you can give me my job back.
7 retired staff were rewarded.
Right, you're still watching News 360, our major news bulletin for the day. Let's go to the markets now, where traders in Accra say they will join their counterparts in Kumasi to close their shops over harassment by customs officers. They are willing to pay taxes, but fear the harassment by GRA tax officers will lead to the collapse of their businesses. My colleague George Quenin has more.
Traders over the years have complained about the high cost of doing business in the country and also the lack of a conducive environment for their businesses to thrive. The latest on the back of this is the fact that traders in the Ashanti region have threatened to close their shops over harassment by customs officers. President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obin, has thrown his support behind the decision by leadership of the Ashanti region.
We are talking about ease of doing business, time of doing business, and cost of doing business. And all these things has been impeded and hindered by the actions of the customs or the GRE in Ashanti region. Already that region is suffering from lack of businesses. And this thing is going to even aggravate their problems.
He touched on claims that the Ashanti region contributes poultry of what is collected in tax revenue.
State organizations and all that have their branches there in Ashanti region, they pay their revenue or they pay their taxes in Accra. And so it's captured in Accra. So if you say that Ashanti region is not paying more, it's not based on scientific reasons.
Here in Accra, traders say they are facing similar ordeal and they're also ready to close their shops.
We are ready. Anytime the Kumasi people show the red flag, they also support. Nobody will waste the time. Electricals, or country people, we are all ready.
What is happening is just GRA frustrating traders. It's like you open your shop and then they send their people to your shop to sit with you, and then they said we are not writing the right VAT invoices, where I think it's not our fault because we pay VAT as people buy, we issue VAT. So as you are here, do you see anybody here? No. So how can I issue VAT invoice?
In most cases, they just bump on you and then they try to maybe go through your books without any prior notice. I mean, we think it's very, very bad. Sometimes when we speak with the government, we sit with them, they don't want to listen to us. Okay. And as traders, we should form a united front to fight some of these things.
Leadership of Guta says if the port is not accruing the necessary revenue, then there should be an overhaul of the entire clearance system. And also the tax net should be widened to ensure that we accrue the necessary revenue. Josh Quenin, TV3 News, Accra.
In more news tonight, as one of the world's leading cocoa producers, Ghana grapples with the delicate balance of setting fair prices for cocoa farmers while also ensuring the stability of its cocoa sector. And political parties in Ghana frequently engage in campaigns centered around the promises to improve cocoa prices and support for farmers. Let's get a reaction from the NPP.
We're here because the NDC is either intentionally, because they have been in government before, so I won't say they don't know, they know. But intentionally, for mischief purposes, confusing spot price with forward price that we have achieved. They are not the same. And so this is what the drama the NDC want to create in Ahafo. And we want to plead with you that the facts are clear. Those who care about Ghanaian farmers is clear. This government, this MPP government, led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, thought about Ghanaians and generated that additional income for them, a free $400 living income differential. This government, for many years, the dream in the Cocoa Board Act to create a pension scheme for cocoa farmers. This government is realizing that dream. That's the government that thinks about Ghanaians. This government that introduced cocoa rehabilitation program to ensure that cocoa trees that yielded 10, 20 pods per tree can now yield 100, 300 and more. That's the government that thinks about people. So we are not just getting Ghanaians better market prices, but we are investing in ways that their yields will go up. That's a comprehensive approach. That is not gather in a huffle, in a church room and do propaganda. The irony of it, in a church room, misinforming people.
Meanwhile, the ranking member on the Agri Committee of Parliament, Eric Opoku, insists that government is shortchanging farmers in the latest cocoa price increment. Now, speaking at a cocoa farmers' deba at Dadiesoba in the Ahafo region, the Member of Parliament for Esunafo South noted that government should have made a better offer following the high price of the commodity on the world market.
Price of 1,308 Ghana cedis, arguing that cocoa farmers should be paid at least 2,500 per bag.
Sir, almost 25 million. Ebu amdema kuafwe 1,308.
What they gave to you, the farmers, was 1,308. So for every bag of cocoa, President Akufo-Addo has deprived you of about 1,173 cedis. Now the quality cocoa with premium was also not added. When you add the premium, it means government is benefiting more than 1,500 from your bag.
I buy number 1,380, wafa 1,500 cedis. Abusiafo 15 million bag biya.
The minority leader Kessel Atuforsen also criticized the NPP government for being insensitive and lacking interest in cocoa farmers, but promised that the NDC government, led by John Dramani Mahama, would address their issues when it regains power.
Cocoa bag biara NDC fu yen hihye kahene ye wa bema nka bag biara ye de bama ho 225 million cedis na ye the premium atomodo ye de kaka ye bama 28 million Ghana cedis bag ho.
The NDC government would have increased the price to 2,800 cedis. This government is insensitive. The next NDC government will increase the bag of cocoa for you, be rest assured.
Fertilizer and free. Cocoa free. Spray free. The Mumba Boko school saka home. I did be a safate be a day Yabayama Usanda Ghana in Ghana, Ghana by Ghana of Gogo.
And it's now time for the latest in the world of business with Michael Ododu. Michael, inflation is falling.
Yeah, after going on a 5-month hike streak, finally it's dropping a bit. Sure. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the business segment here on News 360. My name is Michael Obodu. Straight into our first story, as annual inflation rate fell in August to a 10-month low at 40.1% from 43.1% in July. This means between August 2022 and August 2023, the rate of price increase has dipped by 3% amid the cedi's stability. Foods such as cereals and cereal products continue to drive inflation.
Prices of food such as vegetables, tubers, plantains, fish and seafood continue to drive inflation even as general price levels moderate. The rate of price increase has slowed for the first time in 5 months.
Both food and non-food inflation relative to what we saw last month are slowing down. But if you look at it more critically, you see that the slowdown from a food perspective is much steeper than the slowdown in non-food. Specifically, we saw on a year-on-year basis between July and August 2023, food inflation slowed down by 3.1 percentage points relative to 2.9 percentage points from the perspective of non-food inflation.
Imported inflation for August was 36.2%.
Since August 2022, inflation for imported items have consistently been higher than inflation for locally produced items. And in the month of August 2023, we recorded inflation for locally produced items 42.4% and inflation for imported items 36.2%.
As inflation slows, some analysts are of the view this will influence the central bank to maintain policy rate at its announcement.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Employers Association has called on government to roll out a robust policy to reduce inflation. President of the association, Daniel Echampong, was reacting to current inflation rate, which has dropped from 43% to 40%.
According to the Ghana Statistical Service, the year-on-year inflation rate for the month of July 2023 stood at 43.1%, which is still very high, compared to the same period in 2022, where it stood at 31.7%. The Monetary Policy Committee, at its 113th meeting held from 19th to 21st July 2023, increased the policy rate by 50 basis points to 30% from the then 29.5%. This has yet again caused an elevation in the borrowing costs, posing a major challenge to employers and businesses in the country. We urge government to work through the monetary and fiscal authorities to craft rapid, innovative policies that will help bring down the inflation rate for quick translation to low lending rates in the financial market to help boost businesses.
Now, government in the upcoming T-bills auction scheduled for September 15, 2023 is looking forward to a notable gross issuance of 3.76 billion cedis. This figure represents a substantial week-on-week increase of 44.5% as government seeks to roll out upcoming maturities valued at 3.51 billion cedis. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details.
Roll over the upcoming maturities as part of efforts aimed at addressing its financial obligations and maintain liquidity in the market. However, amid the amplified target size, concerns have arisen regarding potential investor demand. It is speculated that the market's response may fall short of expectations given the substantial issuance volume. As a result, GCB Capital Research suggests that the yield for the 91-day T-bills could potentially escalate to reach the 28% mark. This development underscores the delicate balance that the government must navigate in its debt management strategy, particularly in a market environment marked by varying economic forces and investor sentiment. The forthcoming T-bills auction will be closely monitored as market participants assess the outcome and its implications for the broader financial landscape.
And that'll be all for the business segment here on News 360. For more business stories, our website 3news.com is there for you. My name is Michael Obodu. Thank you for watching. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports.
Time now for the very latest in the world of sports. Thierry Nyan, what's coming up?
Well, we have a story from Obuasi about Ashanti Gold. Remember, they were demoted, if you remember.
Yes.
We are looking at them and then the Africa Games as well.
Take it over.
All right. So in the past year, Obuasi-based club Ashanti Gold were demoted to the Division 2 League and subsequently suspended from participating in any GFA activity indefinitely. My colleague Emmanuel Owusu went to the town, talked to the locals, and told the story.
On 16th May 2022, Obuasi Ashanti Gold FC was demoted to the second division by the Ghana Football Association after being found guilty of match manipulation in the 2020-2021 Ghana Premier League. The club's demotion to the lower tier has not only significantly reduced the interest of football in the community, but has heavily impacted the economy of Obuasi. Businesses around the Langley Stadium have experienced a sharp decline, with some shops closed down.
The
suspension of Ashanti Gold has really affected me. The team manager used to buy water for me for the players during match days, and that has ceased for a year now.
I used to make about 500 cedis in sales from my fried plantain business during their existence, but nowadays market is very slow because no football activity is taking place here. Market was great during their playing days, but nowadays, unless God's grace, it's difficult to make good money.
Transport operators and some artisans have also been greatly hit by this.
How are they about to say? If you have away, who are going to say, I want to stadium. Be a quality with my company, come on, but we want to say, be a bit in the car crab. Say, oh, me come here, boy, to me, I am ready to my.
Supporters across the country used to come around to repair their cars before and after games, but these days they don't come around. Obuasi is not a happy place anymore.
We used to wash cars during Ash Gold and Kotoko games in the past, even without going to the stadium. But the suspension has destroyed everything, so we are appealing to the GFA to temper justice with mercy.
Despite the current situation, renovation works at the Obuasi Langley Stadium is ongoing. The club is hopeful they will be reinstated in Ghana's Top Flight League, scheduled to kick off this Friday, the 15th of September 2023. However, the case is at the Accra High Court and sitting will commence on the 11th of October 2023. Supporters of Ashanti Gold want the court and GFA to temper justice with mercy and reverse the club's demotion.
Bro, I swear, I'm begging, we are begging, let them help us, like before. So Ash Gold will come back, like, everything will be, like, perfect like before. Like now, everything is very, very hard than before. Okay? Right. I'm begging, okay?
Right. Court, yes, go from. Court, go from. Ghana mine, yes, Ash Gold Air Club.
We humbly appeal to the courts and all Ghanaians to help bring Ash Gold back to the Ghana Premier League. Spare and forgive us on this and give us the chance to continue playing football. We can't let this facility go waste.
Now, in an effort to foster media inclusion, the local organizing committee paid a courtesy call on 3 sports earlier this week as the 2023 Africa Games approaches. There is more in this report.
With about 7 months left to the 2023 African Games, the local organizing committee paid a courtesy call to 3 sports to give updates on preparations for the event. The COO of the committee, Dr. Wusu Ansah, revealed that they expect the venues to be ready by the end of the year for a test run.
To have a successful game. We want to assure you that all facilities are being put in place, and by December this year, everything will be in place for a test run, so that come 8th March 2024, the opening ceremony will take place. And the closing ceremony is on 23rd of March 2024, sorry.
The LOC also revealed that they are taking steps to preserve the new facilities for the long term.
The President of the Republic, as one of the mandates they gave to the LOC, was to transform the facilities into a university of sport for development. That means it is not going to be neglected or left to be a white elephant. It is going to be continuously used as a university for sports for development.
The games are expected to begin on 8th March 2024 and end on 23rd March 2024.
And on that note, we'll bring an end to the sports here on News 360 with me, Thea Winyan. Entertainment is next.